Welcome to another Healing the Child Within. Today, we're going to be talking about the 5 people you hang around with the most. And are those people lifting you up or pulling you down? Now, remember, whether they're lifting you up or pulling you down, it's your choice. This is what you are attracting. But when you can play it all out and understand why you're attracting it, then you make choices about who you hang around with in a different way. And it's not just about who you're hanging around with, because remember, we all have an energy field that goes about 15 feet in all directions outside of our body. So those people that we come into contact with, it doesn't have to be someone right in the same room with you. It could be someone on the other side of the world. But for the purpose of this conversation, what I'm talking about is when you're sharing your energy with someone. Now, how do you share your energy? You share your energy in a conversation. You share your energy when you're having a meal together. You share your energy when you live together. You share your energy when you work together. You share your energy when you're riding in the same car. Whenever you have that opportunity to come together and collaborate, cohabitate, you are sharing energy. Now, you're not only sharing energy when you're physically with someone, you're also sharing energy when you think about them. So let's think about this. How much of your thoughts, how many of your thoughts, how often do you have thoughts about a certain person and you're like, oh, Sasa, rasa, that person, drives me crazy. Well, you are sharing energy with that person. You are hanging around that person. So the thing to ask yourself is, why are you obsessed with this person? Why are you hanging around this person? Why do you allow this relationship to happen? And remember, there's no right or wrong answer. There's no good or bad. There's no right or wrong. There just is. And when you can be mindful of what is, when you can be conscious of what is, that's when you start to realize, oh, this is what I'm attracting. This is what I'm reflecting. This is how I'm reacting rather than acting. It creates a space for you to be mindful of you. And that's what's so important, is when you are mindful of you, when you know you. A person who knows him or herself is in a powerful position to create the choices, make the choices, discover the choices that work in a way that you want to expand your highest self. Okay, so when we want to expand and we want to expand spiritually, what are we doing? We're saying, I want to live a life according to X. Remember, you have to know what you want. And then you have to take that wanting to having. So when you create your don't want list, and I've talked about that in many, many episodes, the point is to understand what you don't want, because that's where most people are. They're concentrating on what they don't want. And when it comes to someone that you hang around with, oh, I don't want her to treat me like that. I don't want to be around so-and-so because I get so frustrated that, he or she says this to me, does this to me, says this about me, says this about other people. And when that's happening, you are you're making the choice to put yourself in a position to be with someone that you don't really want to be with. And then when you say to yourself, I don't really want to be with that person, that's when judgment comes in, right? Because that's when you say, oh my gosh, I can't do that. That person needs me. I see this person making so many wrong choices, or I've learned so many ways to do life the right way. And if I leave this person's life, how am I ever going to teach it to them? They need to know this stuff. And the thing is, no, they don't. They need to know what they want to know, what they're ready to know. Remember, when the student is ready, the teacher will appear. But oftentimes the teacher appears and the student doesn't recognize the teacher sharing the message. And when that happens, a wise teacher will know, okay, the student is not ready. Something brought us together, but this was just like a touch point. This was a first opportunity, but this is not the right time. And when that happens, you have the ability to say to yourself, okay, this is not where I need to be right now. So I'm going to let this go. I'm going to just let it be. But oftentimes when we have relationships with someone, we have that guilt factor that pops in, right? We're like, well, but this is my family. I can't just not be around my family. Or this is my best friend. This is the one I've been with forever and ever and ever. And the interesting thing about that, and I like to use the word interesting, because when you say the right thing, the wrong thing, remember there's no right or wrong. So I love that word interesting, because when you keep something interesting, that's when you're always able to step back and say, wow, what can I learn from this? This is interesting. Even when you are in the presence of someone who is pulling you down or lifting you up. Now, let's say that you hang around a great deal with someone who pulls you down. The first question you want to ask yourself is, why am I allowing this to happen? Because you are allowing it to happen. And you can sit there and say, you're crazy, Nancy. I would not choose this for a million years. This is not what I want. I don't like it. It's not comfortable. It's hurtful. And the thing is, yes, you are choosing it. Remember, as long as you're blaming another person, place, or experience, you're giving your power away. You have so much power. We all have so much power. But we don't recognize that power within us because most of us were taught at a very early age that someone else has power over us. Remember, that's what all of these episodes are about for this show. It's about tracking it back to your child self. What did your child self learn between the ages of birth to about 6, 8, 12 years of age? Which of those beliefs did you hold on to as absolute fact and an absolute roadmap to your life? And which of those beliefs are you still holding on to and making choices around in your adult life? It's that simple. Now, when I say it's that simple, if you recognize the belief, first of all, then you want to pay attention to the feeling and the emotion attached to that belief. So when you're thinking about these friends, I'll just pick one friend, someone that either really lifts you up or pulls you down, and you say, why do I hang around this person? Well, obviously, if it's someone who lifts you up, you enjoy being in their presence, right? You love being around them. They have high energy, high vibration. You just feel good when you're around them. It doesn't matter if you just sit and read a book side by side, or if you're having a conversation, you go to movies, whatever, you enjoy being in that person's company. But here's the question to ask you. Are you also being reciprocal to that person? And if not, if you tend to pull that person down, if your negative energy is usually low or negative, and you rely on that person to pull you up, now you see that person has a choice to be in your life, to be there to pull you up, but at that same time, are you pulling that person down? So every relationship is give and take. And when we can stop and say, okay, what am I pulling from this? What am I attracting from this, you see? And so if you're in a situation where you are or have attracted someone who is very negative, maybe they're abusive, maybe they can never admit that they're wrong, and you're always apologizing, you're always putting yourself in the place of being wrong so that they can be right, because it's a cyclical opportunity, right? This is a place that you've put yourself in. This is something that you've chosen to do at some point in your life, and you continue to do it over and over and over, and you don't even recognize it. And you say, no, I just, this is the way it is. Now, we all have the ability to make changes in our life. So if you stop and think about the message of this particular episode, and you're thinking about someone, someone comes to your mind like, yeah, George really makes me feel positive. George really makes me feel like I can do anything. Well, examine your relationship with George. What is it about George that you love? Where does that high energy come from? And is it reciprocal? You might even want to have a conversation with George and say, hey, you know what? I don't know if I've ever told you this or if I tell you this enough, but I enjoy being in your life. I love hanging around with you. I love our conversations. I hope that you get the same from me. Do you? Have that conversation. I love having conversations with people that I love being around, and I love telling them, thank you so much for being in my life. Thank you for what you do. Thank you for bringing out the best in me. Thank you for showing me where I could make changes. I love doing that. I love recognizing those people in my life because it means so much to me. It's not that I tell them because I want brownie points. It's like, ooh, yeah, get brownie points for this relationship. I tell them because that's what makes me feel good. I enjoy how I feel being in their presence or being associated with them. And I enjoy sharing that with them. Oftentimes I'll share with someone, how much I love being in their life, and it brings me to tears. And they're not tears of sadness, they're tears of happiness. And that's one of the things too about inner work, as you do the inner work and you sometimes feel so freaking grateful for where you are, who you are, what you're capable of, that you're overwhelmed with gratitude and happiness and joy and love of life. And sometimes that shows in tears. And that's okay. That's okay, because tears of sadness or tears of happiness, both are cleansing. Both are very cleansing. So let's talk about those people that are in your life that pull you down. Okay, we've talked about someone who pulls you up. Let's talk about those people who pull you down. What happens when you are constantly in someone's presence and afterwards you just feel like, gosh, why do I feel exhausted? Why do I feel used? Why do I feel abused? Why do I feel taken advantage of? You see, this is about you asking yourself the question, why do I feel this way? And then pay attention, because if your answer to yourself is, well, it's because, Sally never pays attention to my wants and needs. I'm always doing stuff for Sally, but Sally just doesn't pay attention to me. She doesn't listen. I've told her time and time again, or she is ruining her life. And I've told her how to change this. You see, it's about your expectations. It's about what you think Sally needs. You got that? Now, step back and think about, what is it about being in that person's life that, I was going to say works for you? What is it about being in that person's life or having that person in your life that feeds you? It feeds your soul. Now, did you know that you can feed your soul both negatively and positively? Because remember, you are here, every person here is a spiritual being having a human experience. And your human experience is to experience what you can experience in human form, because you can experience things in human form that you're not able to experience in spiritual form. So that means contrast, right? It not only means things that make you feel good, things that make you feel positive, it's also the things that make you feel negative. And whether it's positive or negative, it's not right or wrong. It's not good or bad. It just is. So when you ask yourself, wow, why am I attracting this person into my life? What is the lesson, or what is the karmic contract that I have with this person? Is this person a noble friend? Remember, I've talked about that before. Noble friend, it's a Buddhist saying. And noble friends are those people that come into our life to bring us grief, drama, strife. And I love that, because when I learned that, it made it so much easier to think of someone who was bringing me grief as a noble friend than as the names that I used to call him. So when you think about that, think about the energy about the name. Okay, so let's say that you have a friend, I don't know, Fred, we'll call him Fred. And Fred brings you grief, drama, strife. Maybe Fred is related to you. Maybe Fred is your spouse, an ex-spouse. And you think about Fred and you just go off on a tangent, and you have a list of names, really negative names that you refer to when you talk about Fred. Now, if you think about all of those negative names that you refer to when you talk about Fred, just pick 1, 2, 3 of those names and say them out loud. Think about Fred. Think about how angry, upset, frustrated, whatever it is that Fred makes you, and pay attention to your energy when you think about Fred and the names that you use. You got that? All right. Now think about Fred, and then think of Fred in terms of being a noble friend. Do you feel the difference in your energy? Because when you're calling Fred all sorts of negative, nasty names, you know this happens, right? The shoulders come in, the chest caves in. It's like this area right here. You feel that negativity right here. But when you say the word noble friend, you can't help but have it go back and open up. This is a posture of love. This is a posture of fear, right? And there's only 2 ways to make choices in our life: fear or love. That's it. Fear or love. Every choice you make is based on fear or love. Every belief you have is based on fear or love. Fear takes you away from your God self. Love brings you, I was going to say back to, but you never separate from your God self. It's always there. There are just ways that you kind of make it more difficult to connect with. That's a better way to say it. So think about that person who's bringing you grief, drama, strife as your noble friend. And then pay attention to how your thoughts, your energy changes when you think about that friend. Because you know, if that person is a noble friend, you've brought them into your life for a reason. You've attracted them for a reason. You may have a soul contract with them, and that soul contract is something that maybe needs to be looked at. You haven't really defined it. You don't understand it yet. You don't know what a soul contract is, right? A soul contract is those contracts our soul makes on the other side of the veil before we incarnate. For instance, you know, when you're on the other side of the veil, your soul says, you know, I'm going to incarnate into human form. I am going to be there to bring love and light to the world. But I understand that I will need to experience X, Y, and Z in order to let go of X, Y, and Z and lift me up. And when I lift myself up, I lift everyone up. And it creates higher positive energy in the universe, the multiverse, everywhere. That is the choice that your soul makes. And then there is another soul there. Remember, it's all love and light on that side of the veil. And the other soul says, oh, I love you so much. Let me help you with that. I will be there for you. I will be a noble friend. So you see, you made that contract way, way, way beyond your understanding, remembrance, right? And now that person is in your life doing exactly what that person's soul promised you he or she would do. So it's a gift. And how are you accepting the gift? Are you throwing it back in their face? Are you getting mad at yourself? Are you judging yourself? What are you doing? This is why it's so valuable to pay attention to the 5 people that you hang around with the most, why you hang around with them, how they're affecting or infecting your energy, your vibration, and what do you want to do about that? Do you want to make changes? Or do you feel like you need to stay this way just a little bit longer? Remember, there's always 3 questions you can ask yourself. What feeling or emotion and belief can I let go of right now? What feeling, emotion, and belief will I let go of right now? What feeling, emotion, and belief do I need to hold on to for just a little bit longer? Because sometimes making change, which is what we do when we let go of a feeling, emotion, or a belief, that's change. We're making a change. We're making a paradigm shift. When we let go of that, it puts us in a different energy space. And that can feel uncomfortable, right? Now think about it. A lot of people refer to it as your comfort zone, right? Sometimes comfort zone's not so comfortable, but when you're in your comfort zone, you know that, you understand that, it makes sense to you. I don't like this feeling, but it feels normal. And I'm doing that in air quotes because normal is something that you experience over and over and over. That feels normal to you. So when you let go of that experience or that person and you step into a different energy, that can feel uncomfortable. That can feel abnormal. And the same can hold true when you are making changes in your relationships. Those 5 people that you hang around with, if you decide, I'm ready to cut this person out of my life. Now, here's the thing. When I talk about cutting someone out of your life, it's not just that, boom, done, you're out of here. You're dead to me. I don't want to talk to you anymore. That's not cutting them out of your life. Because if you don't deal with it, you haven't cut them out of your life. You're just ignoring them. And your subconscious mind is going to think about it. It's going to come back around and you're going to have that conversation in your head. And you're going to be like, oh, no, you're dead to me. I'm not thinking about you anymore. Because there's going to be negative feelings attached to that relationship. And as long as you're holding on to them, they are going to keep coming back around. That's the way your higher self gives you the opportunity to say, you came here to show people the love and the light. Do you want to live in that love and light, or do you want to keep feeling or experiencing this contrast? Remember, we are powerful beings. We have the ability to make these changes. And if this is something that you're working on, I invite you to visit my website at masteringyourbeliefs.com. Look around, get the free download, take the e-course, book a Sensei session with me. There are tons and tons and tons of books in there that I love sharing. It's my suggested reading list. There's references, whatever calls to you. Remember, if it's calling to you, you've attracted it for a specific reason. But if you want to make changes in your life, if you're ready to stop hanging around certain people, or maybe there is someone that you would like to attract into your life. Maybe you've noticed that there's someone who has really high vibration and you're like, wow, I really feel like my life would be enriched by hanging around this person more. Get to know that person. Even if that person is miles and miles away on the other side of the world, it's so simple now to have a conversation with someone. You reach out to them, you get on a Zoom call, right? And you say, let's talk. Let's have virtual tea or coffee or whatever your preference is, right? And you sit there and you have a conversation and you look at each other and you watch each other's energy and you take it further and you see, what is this relationship about? It's interesting when we step out and we say, I'd really like to get to know you. I'd really like to find out more about you. You'd be surprised at how that other person will probably step back and go, why, thank you. I appreciate that. Now be prepared if that person says, thank you, but that's not where I am right now. Now, are you going to take that personally? Are you going to take that personally? Remember, one of the 4 agreements, take nothing personally, because that's not about you. That's about what that person needs. So if that person says, no, that's not where I am right now, then you have that discussion with yourself about why that person said no. Now, are you looking at it as that person rebuffed you, turned you away, thinks you're not good enough? Those are all conversations you're having with yourself based on your beliefs. Because unless that person specifically said, no, I don't want to hang around with you because you're not worthy of me, that's a whole different conversation. And even if that person says that, that's still about them. Remember, all this work, all of these messages that I share week after week after week, this is about you discovering how to be the best you that you can be, how to live your best life, how to love your life, how to love who you are, what you do, what you're here to do, how to figure out what you're passionate about, how to live your passion. You deserve that. One thing that is sometimes often very difficult when we talk about the people we hang around with is family members. When we have family members, we often feel obligated to be around those family members. We feel like, oh, I have to go see my mom, or I have to go see my grandmother, have to go visit my grandfather and spend some time with him, I have to put up with my loser brother. I have to put up with my sister who's always putting me down and telling me that I'm no good. We have this belief because they're family that we have to put ourselves in a position with them. So I will ask you, if this is you, if this is where you are, where did that belief come from? Was it instilled in you from early on, from childhood? Family is everything. Family is important. Family comes first. Family, family, family. What are your beliefs about family? And what patterns of habit did you get into? I mean, did you just get into that pattern of habit where the mom just makes decisions and you go with it and you just don't say anything, even if you don't agree, because you don't want to hear her mouth, or you don't want to hear the discussion over, I don't know, holiday dinners or whatever? Have you learned to go with the flow rather than stand up for yourself? Because that's something that you created in childhood. And if that's still happening today, you have the opportunity to do some work around that. You have the opportunity to let that belief go, right? That, what can I let go? What will I let go? What do I need to hold on to for just a little bit longer? It's all your choice. Life is all about choices. Every choice you make is based on a belief. And a belief is a thought that you think over and over and over again. Remember, in those thoughts that you think over and over again, they have feelings and emotions attached to them. Those feelings and emotions, that's vibration. That vibration, that's what you're putting out into the universe. And what you're putting out into the universe is what you're bringing back to you. Do you see? It just keeps happening over and over. That is the law of attraction. And it's always working, always. You can't get up one day and say, I'm not going to do law of attraction today. It's a universal law. Law of attraction is a universal law, just like gravity. Gravity is a universal law. You don't wake up one day and say, I'm not going to do gravity today. I'm just going to float around. It doesn't happen. So you're using gravity, whether you think about it or not. You're using the law of attraction, whether you're thinking about it or not. So doesn't it make sense to be aware, to be knowledgeable, to master your beliefs, and to understand how everything that you're attracting is for your highest good? If you have any questions on this, let me know. I love your comments and feedback. In the meantime, this is Nancy Muller, the one and only Life Sensei, saying ciao for now.